All right, we're live. I'm pulling up the box score now, the live stats box score, because this is not working. We might have the TV side back right now. I am not 100% sure. But Wisconsin currently leads 78-73 with 42 seconds remaining. This is obviously not what folks want, but the Badgers are in a position here to hopefully win this one. Um, Badgers now up 79-73 after Max Klesmit makes a free throw, and then we get a jumper in response by Pitt. Um, this is not great for fans who are trying to watch this right now, but hey, this is what we have the technology for. This is absurd. All right, 79-75 for Pitt. They're broadcasting audio only on TV, I'm being told. I guess the video is out. I do not know exactly what's going on. Obviously, I am not there. I am sitting at home here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Audio only, I'm being told. Wisconsin just took a timeout. Let's see if I can maybe. Yeah, we got like, real bad audio available. Um, thank you to Chrissy Birdsall saying incredible work by me. Listen, we have the technology. It's just I'm doing my best here. I don't even have like my audio is probably bad because I don't have my regular mic plugged in right now. So this is not great. Apologies to all of you who are hoping to see the end of this game, but Wisconsin is going to come out of this timeout right now with the ball and have an opportunity to hopefully ice this game. Pittsburgh, trailing by 2 possessions, is most likely going to need to foul here in order to get something going. I got Dubs Caps telling me right now that the TV feed is working again. It's not working again yet on my end, just for audio. Yeah, like I'm getting audio, but it's like a backup audio. So all right, there we go. We got audio back. We got video back. Badgers are back. Go watch on television. While we tried to help you through this TV break. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess we'll just stay alive here through to the end at least and capture a live reaction in the meanwhile and parlay this into an immediate post game reaction show while we have everyone here. Presuming that this doesn't go that late, I think that's what we'll do. Of course, the game before this in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, went all the way to a third overtime before that game was finally decided. But yeah, this is quite something. The TV feed is back. TV is back. If you are finding this now, go watch on CBS Sportsnet. Feel free to come back here for our post game reaction show. Um, good friend Jim mentioning there was no shot clock earlier in this game in the first half. Um, and then the video feed dies. What are we doing? Yeah, like unfortunately, this is the technical difficulties here aren't great for Intersport, who is the like entity that put on this multi-team event at the Greenbrier. Not great look considering the opposite side, which is that all these games have been awesome. So yeah, a weird place where they haven't had to put on a big cable multi-team event before. Darcy Bean saying so lame 3OT now. This disagree. 3OT, not lame. I get that you want to watch Wisconsin, but 3OT, great. Yeah. So here we go for the Badgers. Hopefully pulling off a big quad one victory away from home. Of course, you can watch this on television right now. The TV stream is back, and this game has just gone final. The Greenbrier Tip-Off champs, your Wisconsin Badgers, gutted out 81-75 against the Pittsburgh Panthers. What a victory! What a championship win for your Wisconsin Badgers. An incredible win, and I was glad to play a small part in it here for you as the Wisconsin Badgers get the victory at the Greenbrier Tip-Off, 81-75 over the Pittsburgh Panthers. Yes, we do have a victory. Your Greenbrier Tip-Off champions, the Wisconsin Badgers. Happy to play a small 30-second part in your in your watching experience of this. Yeah, what a win for Wisconsin. And let's parlay this directly into our post-game reaction episode of Scotty Six Pack Podcast. Good evening, and thank you for enjoying it with the six pack. There was something in this glass before, but this glass is empty. I'm your host, Kedrick Stumbris. You can find me on the website formerly known as Twitter, where you may have found me for this live stream, also on Bluesky at Kedrick Stumbris. And anywhere you listen to podcasts, listen to the Scotty Six Pack Podcast. What a day! What an eventful weekend for the Wisconsin Badgers. What a great day for the Wisconsin Badgers basketball team. The Green Bay Packers, of course, getting a big victory. But let's talk about this big win for the Wisconsin Badgers basketball team, because before the season started, I downplayed what I thought this field was going to be. I really thought that this field was not going to be anything impressive. But ultimately, this ended up being a field where Wisconsin's going to walk away from this weekend with at least one, maybe two quad one victories. And doing that away from home is massive for what this team is putting together in the early season, in the early going, before Thanksgiving. Wisconsin is putting together an impressive NCAA tournament resume. This is, wow, an outstanding first few weeks of the season put together by Greg Gard, by Joe Kravinoff, by Kirk Penny, by Greg Stiesma, that entire staff, Lance Randall, and of course everybody on the floor. This is impressive. If you want to come in here now and talk about this win, let me know. We will drop a link in the chat. I'm going to do that momentarily. And let's talk about our big takeaways from this game. Most valuable players from the Greenbrier Tip-Off. Maybe a needs improvement player from the Greenbrier Tip-Off, or NIP, our NIP, as we like to call it here on the Scotty Six Pack Podcast. Live reacting to Wisconsin winning the Greenbrier Tip-Off. So coming into this game tonight, coming into the semifinal, UCF, who Wisconsin beat in the first round, was 74th at Bart Torvik and 76th at Ken Pop. If you want to track how teams, it looks like John Tonje is getting mobbed on the broadcast right now, and that's going to make him the Greenbrier Tip-Off MVP. I'm going to pull up the box score again for everybody and just have that off to the side as we discuss this one, because what a game. Good evening to you, Mark Benson. big game. If anybody wants to jump in and join the call, please feel free to do so. We'll take all your live reactions right now. After a big victory, and Greg Gard smiling on the broadcast with Matt McCall right now, which also, by the way, Matt McCall has done an impressive job as a play-by-play guy for CBS this season. I believe he was with NBC and Peacock last year and was good. He obviously was a bang up head coach at UMass at Chattanooga. Did a solid job, but he's parlayed that into a pretty solid broadcast career thus far for Matt McCall. Really impressive. Man, if you're talking MVPs, yeah, John Tonje. Nolan Winter has a case here, in my opinion, and so does Kamari McGee, who has put together just an incredibly impressive string of 2 games over this weekend. But John Tonje, what he did tonight in particular in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, is one of the most impressive solo performances that I've seen from a Wisconsin basketball player in quite some time. And yeah, that includes the fact that he put together a 41-point performance not that long ago against Arizona. But for John Tonje to come together and put up 25 points in the second half is astounding. In the second half, he was 9 of 11 from the field. Greg Gard sharing the title belt with long time strength and conditioning coach for the Badgers. Oh man, really happy to see that. Wisconsin sharing that with Jim Snyder. What a great call. Love that. John Tonje, 9 of 11 in the second half. 1 of 2 from 3. So only 1 of his 9 made field goals in the second half came from behind the arc, and Tonje still got 25 second half points. 6 of 6 from the line. Man, that's really good. That's really good. Only 1 turnover in the second half. He had an assist, 3 rebounds. Everything that John Tonje does is it feels very purposeful when he plays for this team. As I'm keeping a notebook throughout the game, I kind of just come to notice that he takes tough cuts, tough drives to the hoop because he knows that's how he's going to get it. It never feels like he's out of control when he's going hard into the paint, when he's going hard towards the basket. It feels like everything he does is so incredibly intentional that it's what helps him get to the free throw line over and over again. He shot 10 free throws in this game. That, of course, leads all players who got minutes tonight. He had 19 shots from the field overall. On top of that, that also leading all players, 33 points, leads all scorers. Really impressive performance. And it's not just the strength that he uses in the lane. He also has finesse. There's the beautiful finger roll underneath the hoop that he goes to finish. There is some of that finesse. There is some of the passing that he has as well. And for him to bounce back from what I thought was a bad start to the game, and that's easy to say because I think everybody kind of had a bad start to this game. John Tonje traveled early in this game, and it was just a bad, inexplicable, kind of unforced error that felt so out of character for everything John Tonje had done thus far this year. And he bounced back in such a big way. He early in the game, similarly took a bad jumper on the low block after kind of getting stuffed on a baseline drive. I didn't like that either from him. So it was just gross. In some ways to start the game. And it turned into a really solid second half. John Tonje was 0 of 3 for 3-point field goals in the first half. The team overall 0 of 10, and then hits 5 of 10 as a team to finish the second half. And I was having conversations with folks around halftime where we all, and yeah, part of this is because we see Wisconsin basketball every day, and that gives you some level of bias into thinking this team's going to maybe be able to accomplish more than maybe a neutral observer would. But I do really try to give it my own sober view of this team day in and day out, despite the fact that I grew up cheering for them, despite the fact that I am an alumnus of the university, and it just felt like this team was going to come back and win because they only put up 27 points in the first half and did so only getting to the free throw line. I think it was four times in the first half, but it was only twice, like with 7.5 minutes to go. They hadn't gotten to the rim. They hadn't forced the issue to the rim. Steven Crowell had been playing kind of soft. John Tonje, like I said, took some shots that I think he probably would have wanted back in the first half. And on top of all of that, just their 3-point shots weren't falling. And you knew Wisconsin was going to find water in the second half, and some of those 3-point shots were going to fall. Now, you think that 5 of 10 of them were going to fall in the second half? No, I did not think that was going to happen. I thought, that they would hit 3 of 10, something like that. And for Wisconsin to come back as big as they did was incredibly impressive. But I kind of expected it. I kind of expected that they were going to find their way. They started playing a lot better in the final 8 minutes of that game. And it was, I don't know, just something that we are already coming to expect from this team early on in this season. And I'm going to try to pull out my microphone and improve our audio quality here is what I'm going to do while I'm going to try to power through some of the other talking points that I have along the way. But yeah, for Wisconsin to have this ability to where they were down 14 in this game and cut that lead in half by the time halftime came around. If this is the Wisconsin Badgers team of 2 years ago, we're looking at a 14-point deficit and thinking it's just insurmountable. A 14-point deficit on this team right now feels pedestrian. It feels like something that this team should overcome. And that is such a breath of fresh air that I really like to see. All right, we're going to try to change the microphone right now. All right, I think we got the new audio moving. If anybody is actually watching, you want to drop in the chat if the audio quality here is actually improved. Of course, this was a very impromptu stream. While we powered through the end of the game where we lost the television feed for a minute there. So I was not planning on being live at this exact moment. But hey, we're here and we're doing the thing. Yeah, really impressive game for John Tonje. Similarly, a really impressive game for Kamari McGee, who, oh God, this team just says over and over again how important he is off the bench as a presence for them. And even still, I still come away so very, very impressed, despite already knowing how important that he is to the team overall. He is huge for the Badgers. And He's the first off the bench basically all the time. He plays really, really tough defense. He gives you that speed, that spark in transition to where he can go and put a layup away. And sometimes does it with his left hand. That's massive. And he can also hit some dagger threes, right? Just ginormous. Everything that Kamari McGee can do for you. And when he gets going, when he uses that speed, when he uses that burst, it helps everybody on the court around him play even better. There's a moment early in the first half when Wisconsin just like very quickly erased that 7-point deficit that they came out of halftime with. And Kamari McGee starts taking a drive through the paint with the ball, and it sucks in the defense. And McGee is able to stop on a dime, chuck the ball back to John Tonje on the perimeter, who then has a wide open three, and he drains it. And that doesn't happen without the play of Kamari McGee being just so crucial. Massive for Kamari McGee. Man, I am so impressed with this team. This team scored 54 points in the second half of the game. 54 points. LSU won a triple overtime game today in the first game of the Greenbrier Tip-Off on Saturday. Like barely breaking 100 in triple overtime. If this Wisconsin team played a triple overtime game, it would score like 150 freaking points. Not 150, but like it would easily score 120. I really think so. Did you get it? 54 points here, 110 in a full 40-minute game, right? And then you add 15 minutes on top of it. I don't know. We're looking at 120, 125 at that pace. We're obviously not keeping that pace over a full 55 minutes of basketball. But this team's got an offensive spark, and everything that they do together is so intentional. It's impressive team offense on top of the fact that they have high-level shot makers, on top of the fact that they have high-level ability to drive to the hoop, on top of the fact that they have high-level passers in Steven Crowell, in Max Klesmit at times. Max Klesmit, oh, wow, he was dishing at some points in time during the game. He's been incredibly impressive as a playmaker to start the season early on. He has a beautiful assist early in this game. It was like the first or second bucket Wisconsin actually made to Steven Crowell on the roll after an initial inbound play. I thought that was really, really solid. Klesmit had a great pass on a Kamari McGee back cut. Again, one of these things that Kamari McGee just does at a really high level is just cutting really hard. Something I think he does really well. Something obviously John Tonje does really well. But Max Klesmit opens him up for that as well. He has had awesome jobs facilitating. There was another moment in the first half when Wisconsin was coming back in this where it took them a second, but Nolan Winter and Max Klesmit kind of got on the same page and realizing that Winter had a mismatch in the post. And Max Klesmit just like perfectly put the pass where only Nolan Winter was going to be able to go and get it, and Winter was able to finish for a layup. It was beautiful. Max Klesmit has been impressive as facilitator as well. Mark Benson jumping in from the website formerly known as Twitter, mentioning that Kamari McGee and John Blackwell being out last January and February, along with the reported recruiting of AJ Storr approximately at the same time, is, in my honest opinion, the reason for the slump mid-season last year. I don't necessarily want to get into the AJ Storr of it all. There's probably something to that, but I think that's harder to qualify. But there were plenty of smart people on these here interwebs in the greater Badgers, takeovers who tied Wisconsin's problems to the lack of Kamari McGee minutes off the bench. And I think that it was probably a little bit, I think there is probably some level of hindsight now that we would have that is probably unreasonable given the number of minutes Kamari McGee was playing at a point in time last year to say that he's like the sole reason for Wisconsin's downfall down the stretch of last season. But if they were to lose him now, I think it'd be devastating for this team. And injuries are going to come, and they're going to have to figure it out at certain points in time during the season. And it's not that this team isn't deep. It's not that I don't believe in Jack Janicki's ability off the bench, who was the only player off the bench who had minutes in the second half outside of Kamari McGee. Greg Gard keeping Carter Gilmore and Xavier Amos on the bench in the second half for the entire time, which is, again, kind of getting at my concern about the front court depth on this team, but c'est la vie. And yeah, I think that the biggest part with this team is that, especially from all 5 starters to 6, I think every player plays with each other and is so important as a cohesive unit that losing one is rough. John Blackwell's injury last year definitely hurt too, just because he was the second closest thing you had to a high-level athlete, aside from AJ Storr. Mark Benson mentioning, but they are far deeper this year! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! I think that is both true and untrue. I think some of this, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, I think some of this is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, replying to me saying that the Badgers did not get any second half minutes from Carter Gilmore or Xavier Amos. I think that's a little bit tongue-in-cheek from you here on this comment. I think they are deeper this year. I think that you do have, they're not just having guys filling minutes to fill minutes at some point in time this year. They have guys on the floor playing those minutes because they excel in their role playing those minutes. And when they are not excelling at that role, they don't play. And that's what we saw from Carter Gilmore and Xavier Amos in the second half of this game, is when they are not excelling at that role, they sit. And that's going to be what it's going to be. Yeah. Other things I want to point out. Wisconsin ends up outscoring Pitt in the paint 46-44, which, like I said, is massive considering that Wisconsin did not start well in the second half, or in the first half rather, especially in the category of getting to the rim. There was a point in time, this was at the under 8 timeout. Wisconsin was 0 of 7 from beyond the arc on 3-point attempts, and Pitt had an 18-6 advantage on points in the paint. That was a problem. Mark, but don't you think that Amos and Gilly, not in the second half, not being good matchups, and he goes away from those who seem to have bad matchups? Don't you think that Amos and Gilly not being good matchups? Yeah. So I get what you're saying here, is that because they had the ability to play other units, they had the ability to not play Gilmore and Amos, because they were able to play a different front court in Winter and Crowder, which just had a better matchup, and that's proof of why they are deeper. Yes, and that's, I think you and I are making the same point, but kind of doing it in a little bit of a different way. Is there are going to be times, I think, with this front court that I definitely have questions about it, in part because there are certain games where certain players seemingly aren't going to be able to stay out there, like this in the second half, or like the second half against UTRGV, when Nolan Winter and Stephen Crowell can stay on the court. That's not always a bad thing. That's not always a disaster when you have other complementary pieces that you can trust in the front court. Like Xavier Amos in that game against UTRGV, like Carter Gilmore in that game against UTRGV, and Mark Benson agreed. We're making the same point here. Way better matchup for Crowell and Winter tonight. Absolutely. Absolutely. When Pitt is a team that pounds the glass like they do, and I'm a little bit surprised at the run that Xavier Amos got for quite a while against UCF, because that's also a team that I expected to pound the glass a little bit harder. And it's part of the reason why Amos got yanked a little bit down the stretch against UCF and didn't look as good. That Wisconsin's going to need their go-to bigs in there in Nolan Winter and Stephen Crowell. And of course, that game against UCF was a little bit weird considering that Stephen Crowell picked up his fourth foul with 19 minutes and 44 seconds remaining in regulation. So that was a problem for them. Huge game for Wisconsin. Huge wins for Wisconsin. Wisconsin getting a quad 1 win on a neutral court in November. They have that. They have what should be, unless Arizona slips big time down to outside of the top 30, that should be a quad 1 win. Unless Arizona slips outside of the top 30 in the net, that should be a quad 1 win for Wisconsin as well. And I really doubt that Arizona is going to slip like that because I presume that them playing in the Big 12 is going to help keep them afloat for quite some time. It's not like they had a bad loss to Duke. That was, kind of a gross game, but a close game nonetheless. Yeah, a huge resume stamp for Wisconsin, as it now gets to have 6 days off before it hosts Chicago State, and then another full week after that before it plays Marquette. If I am remembering that full schedule correctly, unless they host. Do they play Michigan before they play Marquette? I think that they play Michigan before they play Marquette. Wisconsin basketball schedule. I think they play Michigan. Yeah, they do. Chicago State, Michigan, Marquette, and then Illinois. Huge. Get 6 days off. You got to play a Chicago State team that you should handle with some relative ease, and then you get into some tough games against a Michigan team that has looked pretty solid so far in the early goings of the Dusty May era in Ann Arbor, and then a Marquette team that that matchup looks a heck of a lot more compelling today than it did start the season. And living in Milwaukee, living down the street from Marquette's home arena and Pfizer Forum, I think that's a gettable game. Like I don't love the way Marquette matches up with Wisconsin. I think Marquette got a little bit of a benefit of the doubt from early season prognosticators in their early season projections. They got a little bit of the benefit of the doubt given what Shaka Smart has done there over the course of the past few seasons. And I don't think that team is actually let's maybe pencil them into the Sweet 16 team. I think they can be that, but so far they don't look like that. I don't think they have the shooting to keep up with Wisconsin if Wisconsin has a solid shooting night. I don't think they have the interior presence to keep up with Wisconsin, considering that's a team that struggled on the interior with Central Michigan, for example. Right, not to take away from Wisconsin's struggles with UTRGV, but I think that's a weird matchup disadvantage that Wisconsin had against the Vaqueros, and that's not something that Marquette really had to face against the Chips. So that's that. The football team, we should mention it briefly here because I haven't talked about it yet on this podcast. But I'm going to have more to say about that this upcoming week. I'm hoping to get a couple of solid guests to help me talk about the football team this week on a weird holiday week, but we're going to keep trying to bring content to you this week. Same kind of stuff as usual. Additionally, the Packers kind of just smacked the heck out of the 49ers, an injured 49ers team, and the Packers took care of business. They looked a little bit questionable at times. But Quay Walker had a good game, which I think is what you want to hope for on defense. Romeo Doubs looks like he's legit. Looks like he's back to being Jordan Love's #1 target, which we kind of expected going into the season, if it wasn't going to be Jaden Reed in particular. And they're now 8-3 and ready to start firing away. But this is a big win for Wisconsin. It's not a team that folds. It's not a team that folds, and that's something that I think plenty of people have criticized for. Not necessarily myself, but I think others have criticized this Wisconsin basketball team for doing over the last couple of years. Is when they get into a scoring drought, they kind of fold and aren't able to come back. And they had a couple of times where there was a scoring drought. They had a couple of times in this game where it seemed that there was a lid on the rim. And this was a weird game with weird circumstances. And it's easy to see how you fall behind and don't find a way to get back. You have to wait an hour past when you normally thought you were going to play. That messes with athletes' routines. That messes with how you want to approach your pregame warmups. That's how you want to approach. It messes with all these athletes, high-level athletes that are incredible creatures of habit. On top of that, then you had the slow start to the game with the shot clock off. And then you had the flickering lights in the ballroom in the second half. Not to mention they were playing in a ballroom in the first place, right? Weird circumstance, and this team took care of business and is 7-0. 7-0. 7-0 doesn't happen at this program. Not a lot. Not outside of the 2014 and 2015 teams. 7-0 does not happen a lot at this program. Enjoy it. Enjoy it because they're going to get to 8-0 over Chicago State. And you have some tough Big Ten competition in December. But if you can get through that unscathed, and if you can get through Marquette unscathed, I don't know, you got a weird game against Butler, and I'm not exactly sure what Butler is so far. But yeah, this is a team that has the potential to go on a little bit of a run and start. I said it in the beginning of the show. Really start putting together a really great NCAA tournament resume. Andy Heckroth mentioning John Tanjay fits the Badger offense better than AJ Storr. Absolutely. John Tanjay runs the offense. And I think that makes him a better fit than AJ Storr. I'll leave it at that. This has been the Scotty Six Pack Podcast. For any of you who have joined and stayed so long since we were live streaming the box score to close the game because the television feed cut out. Thank you very much for listening. I don't know if that's going to make it into the final cut of the show or not. We'll find out. But until we talk to you all again very soon on Wisconsin.